So the year list of Hammurabi gives us a very interesting insight into Hammurabi's method of diplomacy and war. Yes?
These things that he built, the walls, the
Yeah.
temples, are there any surviving structures?
You know that, unfortunately, in Babylon itself, we don't have too many surviving structures because Babylon was the center, it was the crossroads of Western Asia for centuries, for thousands of years, and was crisscrossed by destroyers. Certain things were preserved. For instance, I remember when I was in Berlin and I went into the Pergamon Museum and went into this room, my breath stopped. There was the walls and the gate of the city of Babylon, as built by Nebuchadnezzar, incredibly large and gorgeous because the walls were built of brick and the brick was decorated and baked with beautiful scenes. It's a magnificent sight. But the other thing I looked at and I said, when the Jews were brought into Babylon after the destruction of the first temple, they went through this gate, the gate of Ishtar. And the German archaeologists brought it piece by piece and brought it to Berlin. And it's standing there in the Pergamon Museum, where they have two rooms. One is the Gate of Babylon, which is worth a trip, and the other is the Temple of Diana of Pergamum in Greece, which is a most magnificent structure. Not too much remains because of the destruction. Remains of the towers of Babylon are there, thousands of tablets. But when we get to the north to Assyria, which is now in Kurdistan, this was not a main route of conquest. And there you see temples and palaces and inscriptions and great statues and all of that on a very large scale because they were not destroyed. You know who went into Babylon? Many of them. I'm not only talking about Alexander the Great didn't destroy much, and Cyrus the Great, when he conquered in Babylon in 540 BC, he didn't destroy anything. In fact, he preserved it. But when Genghis Khan came in, you know, Genghis Khan was just horses, swords, warriors, killers. Genghis Khan's conquest was destruction on a large scale. It's only his grandsons who became emperors. Kublai Khan was his grandson, became emperor of China. By that time, he had become Chinese. But the Mongols destroyed, and Tamerlane also went on a rampage. But none of these, neither Genghis Khan nor Tamerlane, established a kingdom. They were warriors. It's a different mentality, you know. Cyrus the Great was a king. He was an empire builder. When he conquered Babylon, he wanted to restore Babylon. When he conquered Babylonian Empire, he wanted to restore the temple in Jerusalem. I mean, this is an entirely different mentality. Alexander the Great didn't want to destroy. He wanted to build cities all over the empire in order to spread Greek culture, but he didn't want to destroy anything. But of course, war is war. War is still hell. Anyway, so we have then the career of Hammurabi, and we have an idea of what he accomplished and achieved. Now, after Hammurabi had established his empire, and we should date, well, we know he became emperor in 1728, but by 1700 BC, 30 years later, he had made Babylon the great center of Babylonian civilization, and it remained, you could say, the mother of Western civilization for another 1,000 years at least, and its influence continued thereafter. It was invaded, and it was conquered, and then it was rebuilt by Nebuchadnezzar in 600 BC. And Nebuchadnezzar restored it and rebuilt it in a beautiful style, and of course created this great Gate of Ishtar, which is one of his constructions. And Nebuchadnezzar, by the way, in his inscriptions speaks only of his great architectural projects. He doesn't mention the fact that he conquered Jerusalem. At least we don't have that particular account. There must have been an account of his conquest of Jerusalem, but we don't have it. We do have accounts of his great structural achievements, his architectural achievements, his pride in the art and architecture of Babylon.